If you ever sell from stage, whether that be a virtual presentation such as a webinar or a challenge, or maybe you actually sell in person, quite literally on physical stages, today we're going to be talking about two specific changes that I recently made to my own stage presentation that allowed me to 3x the conversion rate that I get from stage. So if you, once again, are ultimately trying to make more money as you sell from stage, this video is going to be really pertinent to you. Make sure you stay specifically to the end though, because we're going to be talking not just about those two specific changes I made, but we'll even be giving a framework for how to diagnose your presentation and how to make sure that you're changing the right thing at the right time. So let's go ahead and get started. And real quick, we do need to start off with an earnings disclaimer. Okay, I have no idea who you are. This is a free YouTube video at the end of the day. And so all I can do is make sure that I'm simply giving you lessons that I personally have learned while making money from stage, as well as coaching our own clients on how they've been able to make more money from stage as well. We've seen people make 6 figures in a day. We've even seen a couple people make 7 figures in a day. However, I am by no means, way, shape, or form promising or guaranteeing that you're going to make anything from stage. I have no idea who you are. I have no idea if you withhold the actual ability to even make more money in business. I don't even know if you're in business. So I'm not making any sort of claims here. I'm just giving you lessons. All right. My name is Hesterberg. I run paidevents.com, and we help coaches, experts, and other authority-based brands. We help them install events into their business models. Ultimately, these are paid virtual events where we will help them sell as many tickets as possible to an event, and they're usually virtual events, and so that way they can get as many people in the virtual room as possible. And then we'll even teach them how to sell from stage. We'll teach them how to either launch, maybe it's their first time launching a high ticket offer or a brand new high ticket offer, or maybe it's scaling up an existing offer. And that's what we do. We've been doing that for years now. Technically, since 2020 was the first time I started getting into the world of events. And I mean, we've done some awesome events, right? We've done, once again, some multiple 6-figure events. We've done some 7-figure events, and we've done a lot of 5-figure events. And so I knew how to coach, right? But it's one thing to coach. It's a different thing to play the game. And I wanted to show people that I knew how to play the game. But then I also, fully transparent, we had an offer. It was more of an agency style offer that really was not going to be long-term scalable. It was just a little too operationally complex to be able to continue to scale, to be the hands and feet for everyone. But ultimately, we did have all of the SOPs and all of the knowledge on how to go help a business go start up and plan a virtual event that they'd be able to sell a bunch of tickets for. We knew how to sell all the tickets. We knew how to get people there. We knew how to sell from stage. And so, well, you know what? If we need to launch a new offer, I think the way that we're going to do this is we will launch some sort of a group coaching offer, like a group consulting offer, where we can ultimately license out our process. We can license out the system to other businesses and ultimately teach them how to fish rather than us providing the fish for them. And great idea. I just wanted to make sure that it had legs to stand on. And so instead of trying to go create this entire program and then trying to sell it, I said, you know what? Let's just do a virtual event ourselves. Number one, to once again, show people that the coach can actually play the game as well. But also, I wanted more than one person to enroll at the same time. And that is a really slow way of playing the game of business if you're just trying to get a sale, one here and one there and one there. Also, it felt a little bit more congruent because, no one wants to go launch a group program and then tell their first customer in it saying, hey, this is going to be a group program, but admittedly, you're a first customer. I said, you know what? We're going to go do our own event to pre-launch this thing. So we went ahead, we planned for this event. We called it Paid Event Secrets. We launched this. Technically, it was a 2-day experience. Tickets were a whopping $1. That was a whole pricing strategy in and of itself. We always tell people that if you charge for your tickets, you'll always have a much higher show rate, which is exactly what we saw. We saw about 50% of people show up on day one, which if you do webinars or free presentations or free events, you know that in the online space, you're usually looking at somewhere between, 18, maybe 20%, maybe 30% if you're really crushing it on those show rates. And so 50% show rate, that's on the low side of what we expect. Usually we always say 50 to 75% is going to be a little bit more average for most people when they charge money for their tickets. And so, we did that. We sold, it was just less than, I think, 200 tickets for our first ever event. Technically speaking, we had one person buy our service. It was a multi-5-figure offer. And we had one person book a call with us before the event even started. And so on that one, we made a good chunk of money. on that. And so, we got one sale there. And then we went into the event. And by the time that we actually gave the presentation, I want to say we had like 82, maybe 83 people live at that time while they were watching the pitch. And technically speaking, the pitch converted, okay? We had a whopping 2 people take me up on that offer, which, quick math on this, if we do, 2 divided by 83, yeah, you're looking at like 2.4, maybe 2.5% conversion rate, which admittedly is kind of atrocious. It's not great. But hey, the event made money, it turned a profit, and technically speaking, you could say the whole thing was a win because I was just trying to validate if this offer had legs to stand on, and I didn't just want to enroll one person at a time. Going to the drawing board afterwards, we were doing a little bit more of a post-event debrief or post-mortem meeting. I was trying to figure out what did we need to change. Now, before I tell you the 2 specific changes we made and how big of a difference they actually made, I need you to understand how we came to the conclusion, because the thought process on diagnosing the event and diagnosing the presentation is far more valuable than just the 2 specific things that we ended up changing. The thought process can be boiled down into 3 words, which is ruthlessly attack bottlenecks. Ruthlessly attack bottlenecks. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back. Ruthlessly attack bottlenecks. What do I mean by that? Some people, they're so focused on trying to improve a certain piece of their funnel when that piece is not the thing that's broken. It's not really going to make or break anything in that funnel or in the performance of their marketing if they fix or try to improve one little element that's not actually broken. You want to look at every step of your entire funnel or your entire sales process and figure out what is the part of the funnel, what is the step of the funnel or the step of the customer journey that is the least efficient, that you can improve the most, okay? And so when you're looking at an event, there are a few key areas that you want to look over. The first key area is how many registrants did you have? And technically speaking, I guess you could just say registrants is the first key area, and there's 2 sub-bullets of that. So, first bullet point of that is how much are you paying to get registrants? Because if you have to pay, call it $3,000 to get someone to buy a ticket for your event, your odds are going to be very low of being able to turn over a nice profit during the event because it's so inefficient to get people there. Okay, so the cost to get registrants is one potential bottleneck in the process. Now, the next potential bottleneck is specifically within registrants is maybe you have people buying tickets or registering for your event with no problem at all. However, maybe you just don't have enough people registering for your event. So, maybe you only have 10 people register for your webinar or only 30 people register for your webinar. That's going to be a bottleneck. You might be getting those people to sign up or maybe buy tickets at a very efficient rate. However, if you don't have enough people there, or enough people to simply sign up in the first place, it's going to be a huge bottleneck in the ability to be able to turn over a nice profit in the back end, especially after you factor in, the event show rates, the conversion rates, even the view-through rates, etc. That you're just going to be limited on the amount of money that you could make from your event. That, technically speaking, leads us perfectly into the second core area of a bottleneck within an event process here, which is going to be the actual show rate. So there's registrants, but then there's attendees, and there's always a drop. It doesn't matter if you're doing in-person events or virtual events, whether they're free or they're paid, there's always going to be a drop-off from the number of people that signed up or bought a ticket versus the people that actually show up, butts in seat, and actually watch the presentation. And so if you do free events, typically speaking, you're going to be around, once again, that 20, maybe 30% mark for show rates. And if you're significantly below that, that might be a bottleneck that's going to be a big area of improvement that you could work on. However, if you're doing paid virtual events, once again, usually we see 50 to 75% show rates. And technically speaking, I've not done too many in-person live events, so I don't really have enough data on that. I would imagine those are going to be closer to 80 to maybe 90% show rates, but you might want to ask someone else that actually focuses on those specifically. So anyway, if your show rates are significantly below what I just mentioned, whether they're free, paid, or once again, kind of in person, you might want to look into that because that's clearly going to be a bottleneck. For example, if you're charging for tickets for a virtual event and you're only getting 20% of people to show up or 30% of people to show up, that's an issue that needs to be addressed because that should be very easy to simply double the conversion rate on that. And boom, that now doubles the amount of people in the room, doubles the amount of people that can hear your pitch, and technically speaking, going to double the amount amount of money you make, even if you don't change your conversion rate. Now, the next area of a bottleneck would be your retention rate. So, for example, if you do multi-day events, this is usually going to be the most notable, where maybe you go live for, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and you're doing more of a challenge model where you're only going live for, call it 1 or 2 hours a day. And, day one, maybe you have, 50 people show up. However, day two, maybe there's a big drop off and only 25 people come back. And then now your pitch is on day three and only 20 people come back on day three. Well, now by the time you actually give your offer, maybe you only have, 18, 19, 20 people there, but you technically had 50 people on day one. That's a big drop off. And that's something that I would want to look into to figure out how can we increase the retention rate or the view through rate or the engagement rate from day one all the way through until the time that your actual offer is given. Now, the fourth area of a bottleneck within specifically events is simply going to be your conversion rate of your actual pitch. So it doesn't matter if you're having people book calls with you or if you're having them go straight to a checkout to go buy something or, download something. The conversion rate of your call to action is going to be a potential bottleneck for you. So, for example, my specific event that I already mentioned, when we converted at less than 3%, that was a huge bottleneck. I know through enough data that I was converting at lower than what I should be converting at. I knew that that would probably be the easiest area of improvement for me to simply double, maybe even triple or even quadruple my conversion rate from stage, even though it was a virtual stage. So once again, that would be another area you could work on. And the only way you're going to know if that specifically needs the most work is you're going to look at your data. And, if you've had 100 people watch your pitch and you had less than 2 or 3 people take you up on it, your pitch or your offer might need a little bit of work, or your presentation, honestly, the entire framework might need a little bit of work. However, maybe you converted great. We just had a client who she just told us that she only had 6 people on her last event. She didn't run any ads to it or anything. She just wanted to validate it organically, and only 6 people showed up. But 6 people showed up on day one, and all 6 of them came back on day two. And then she had 2 of those 6 people buy it was a multi 4-figure offer. I think it was a $5,500 offer. She made like $11,000 on day two, and she had never pitched from stage before ever. And so when we're doing a debrief with her, it's like, hey, you're like, technically speaking, you only got 2 sales. However, you only pitched to 6 people. So that's a fantastic conversion rate. That's not the bottleneck we need to solve for. Next time, we just need more people on your event, right? So that would be, once again, the fourth area of a potential bottleneck. And then fifth one would simply be profitability. So this is going to be, let's just say that you had lots of people buy tickets and or register for your event. And maybe you're happy with the show rate. And technically speaking, your view through rate or your engagement rate might have been great as well. And maybe your conversion rate was just bomb as well. It just went really, really well. A lot of people seemed to buy, but it just seemed like the profits were just kind of lackluster. They just not really anything exciting or, worth kind of writing home about. And so that might be a situation where simply you're just charging too little, right? Like the back end price point of your offer that you're having people take advantage of might just be getting undercharged for. So maybe you simply increase your price point. And oftentimes we've actually seen that to be the case where someone's actually charging, $2,000 for an offer and people are buying it with no problem, but they could actually be charging $4,000 or $5,000 for that exact same offer and people would still buy it with no problem. And so in that case, they're literally doubling their profit margin. Actually, probably more than that if we're actually talking about profit margin, but they're for sure doubling the revenue. Even if they just hardly drop their conversion rate, the amount of revenue and the amount of profit that they'll make usually more than makes up for it. So that would be another potential bottleneck within the event-based sales process. As you could probably tell by now, depending on where your bottleneck is, will also depend on what your solution should be to fix it. So for example, you don't need to go change anything at all to your offer, the back-end offer that you're selling from stage, if the bottleneck itself is getting people to your event. That might be a totally different set of solutions. And so for my case, when I look at my entire event for the first time that I hosted this thing, we were happy with pretty much every step of the funnel except that conversion rate. And so in that case, when the conversion rate itself is low, I usually know that it's going to be one of a couple things that need to be changed. The first potential issue was going to be that I didn't actually do a good job at shifting beliefs and kind of controlling frame of the room over the course of the presentation. Technically speaking, my offer itself could have been incredible, but if I did a really poor job at shifting the right beliefs in the room before they ever heard about my offer, that would be one area of improvement that I might need to make. I knew for a fact that I shifted the right beliefs. I did know that I got a few conversions on a multi-five-figure offer. And technically speaking, sending people straight to a multi-five-figure offer from a 2-day event, from a $1 entry price point, not a bad conversion rate. And I know enough about the 5 buyer beliefs. I have another video on that on my channel, so feel free to check that out if you'd like. But I know enough about these 5 buyer beliefs to know whether or not I'm actually building or shifting those beliefs well enough or not. And so I knew for a fact that was not the thing that needed changed. Many people, though, when they're not converting well from stage, that usually is their issue. However, my sake, I just knew for a fact it wasn't. And we'll get to what it was, okay? So then there's 2 other potential issues. So the next issue that it could have been, and admittedly, spoiler alert, it was one of these, was that the offer itself could have had just a little too much resistance. The call to action is just, I was having them jump through a bunch of hoops. And, because of that, there's too much friction. And so therefore, you don't have enough people kind of squeeze through the bottom of the funnel. Quite literally, if you're thinking about a funnel, right, like an actual visual of a funnel, there's this little like point at the bottom. If it's too small at the bottom, quite literally, not enough of the units in the funnel can actually flow through to the bottom. So that was another issue that could have been the case. And then the third one is that the offer itself is something that people just literally didn't want. And in my case, I knew that it was not the third option. I knew that the offer itself people did want because the retention rate was pretty solid from day 1 to day 2. And I had a very high view through rate, even all the way through to the pitch. And I had a very high engagement rate. People were asking a lot of questions about the offers. And quite literally, we did have a few people buy it. And so I knew that the offer was validated. But I I have left one part about this entire experience away from this video, and here's where I get to tell you, okay? I was selling a $15,000 offer straight to a sales page, yes, meaning I had 0 sales calls that I was offering. There was not a way to speak with myself or someone from my team to see if this was actually the right fit for you. I also didn't even offer a payment plan. So it was $15K, buy or die is essentially how I framed it. And I laugh about it because it was so dumb of me to do that. I still stand by it. I think it was a fun test and I think it was worthwhile. I left a ton of money on the table. However, I think anyone that's now hearing this, you're like, are you kidding me? I waited this long in the video to find out that you're a dumb enough person to expect that a bunch of people were going to go straight to a checkout page and buy a $15K offer without speaking to anyone. I mean, you could say dumb enough or you could say, smart enough because technically people did it. However, obviously I left a lot of money on the table. And so the 2 changes that we made for the next event, because we decided that we would rehost this event one more time about 45 days later before we officially built everything out. And we rehosted it again. Once again, the cost per purchase on the front end stayed about steady. The show rate stayed relatively the same. The engagement rate stayed about the same. And when we did it, the second time around, the 2 changes that we made was we said, hey, it is $15,000. However, we also offer payment plans, right? So there's going to be multiple different ways that you can enroll. So ultimately, we just made it more accessible for everyone, whether they had the $15K that they can throw on a credit card right then and there, or maybe they had to pay, some sort of a smaller amount over time and do a payment plan. We made it a little bit more accessible for the people there. And then the other change that we made that did really, really well was we did a deposit model. So instead of having everyone say, yeah, you got to make your commitment now, you got to make your decision now, do you want this or not? Buy or die sort of a mentality. Instead, we said, you know what? We want to make sure that this is actually the right fit for every single person here. And we understand that you likely have a couple nuanced questions as to whether this will work well for you or not. And so your next step is going to pay in our case, we did a $1,000 refundable deposit. Now, the reason why we said this was I was taking all the calls. I wasn't going to be sending everyone to some sort of a commission-hungry sales rep. And so quite literally, that's what I said. I said, look, I know that you've heard from me for the last couple days. you don't need to hear me talk anymore, but you do need some clarity on whether this makes sense for you or not. And so the $1,000 refundable deposit is simply just going to reroute you straight to my calendar where you'll be able to talk to me. Once again, not a commission-hungry sales rep, just directly with me. And let's just chat, a little bit more about your situation. Let's see if it actually makes sense for you or not. I am not in the business of just taking people's money and not giving anything in return. And so if it makes sense for you, great. We'll go ahead and apply that deposit into the full cost of the enrollment or the full investment of the program. And whether you do a payment plan or a pay in full, we'll make it work either way. Now, if it doesn't make sense, you jump on that call, it doesn't make sense, then no big deal at all. Happily just refund the money, not a big deal. That's what we did. And immediately, the second time around, this thing converted to like 12%. The exact same offer, exact same pitch, exact same, content and everything, but it converted around 12% instead of like 2.5 or 3%. I guess I could have started off the video by saying I 4x'd the conversion rate because that's darn near what I did. However, the question might be, was that a fluke? Okay, was I just a little bit more confident? Like, was there anything else that was a fluke? And so we've tested this out again. Okay, so we actually just tested this out again. We had a very similar event format. We charged $7 instead of $1. Like, we changed a couple super small things. However, the offer and the main pitch was about the same. And guess what? We converted almost identical. We now know the offer actually not just has legs to stand on, and also we've been selling this for almost a year now. So we've made a good bit of money so far. We've made a good bit of revenue. We have a lot more client testimonials and client case studies and way more refined processes. And so technically speaking, I feel like I actually should have converted at a significantly higher rate than simply 12% this most recent time around. However, there's actually a different bottleneck on this most recent event. And that will be discussed in a different video after we actually solve for the bottleneck. It's a very easy fix, but we just need to solve for it. But I will say this, we have technically tested this out now on a 2-day and a 3-day model, and both times converted exactly the same. I want to encourage you, if you're watching this right now and either you already do pitch from stage, you already do sell from stage, once again, it doesn't matter if this is in person or virtual. The point that I want to really drill home is that when you're looking to optimize a funnel, it's not always what you think it is. You don't always have to change your pitch. Sometimes you just need more people in the room, or you don't always need more people in the room. Sometimes you just need to keep them in the room better. Sometimes you're just paying too much to get those people in the room. So make sure that you're addressing the correct bottleneck at the correct time. And you'll find that these events and overall literally any marketing funnel will continue to perform better and better and better over time with one bottleneck solved at a time. This is truly how you fix pretty much any funnel in history. Okay. I've been in the digital marketing space since technically 2015. Been an entrepreneur that entire time, been really in the growth marketing space. And we've done call booking funnels. We've done book funnels. We've done virtual event funnels. We've done webinar funnels. We've done pretty much every single type of funnel you can think of. And they're all solved with that exact mentality. And sometimes you literally might be just right on the edge of a massive breakthrough. You might be literally 1 or 2 small little tweaks away in your entire funnel from massive paydays and massive profits. Once again, going back to the very start of the video, can't promise anything for you, but I'm telling you, I've seen it time after time after time. People will get really, really, really close to having a breakthrough within their business or their digital marketing, and they end up giving up just barely too soon, or they're trying to solve for the wrong bottleneck. And so if you'd like some help with that, especially if you're in the world of virtual events, check out the link in the description. Once again, I do run paidevents.com. So if you'd like to go to paidevents.com and book a call either with myself or someone from my team, we'd be more than happy to kind of diagnose what's going on in your funnel. Let's figure out what's going on in your stage presentations and how can you actually get the clarity that you need to be able to go build up your business and take these lessons that have been tried and true and work for one business after another, and how can you apply those proven lessons into your business so that you can hopefully continue to shortcut your learning curve and be able to have a little bit more efficiencies and profits within your marketing. And finally, I just want to say, if you're new here, big ol' welcome to the channel, okay? My name is Zach Hesterberg, and we have 2 videos that we produce every single week around here. Every Tuesday are very tactile, very strategic, videos where we talk about how you can go apply a couple lessons into your business and hopefully go create some more revenue and go create some more sales or more efficiency within your marketing and your sales process. Okay, and then every Friday we actually talk about the Bible. These are usually called Faith Forward Fridays, and we'll actually unpack some scripture, whether it's one Bible verse or a whole collection of them, and specifically talk about how they can apply into your business, how they can apply to how you're leading and shaking in the marketplace, and how they can apply into how you're leading your team and building out offers and actually building your business. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, I would love to welcome you. Feel free, smash that subscribe button wherever it is on YouTube. And if you're really feeling hot and spicy and crazy, go turn on the post notifications while you're at it. And lastly, if you are a returning subscriber, always say welcome on back. Always appreciate having you, and always, you probably already know what I'm going to say at this point, which is if you know someone that is in the world of business and they're trying to, grow their business, they're trying to actually build their business, ideally with a faith forward mindset, and they're specifically trying to do so with an exponential leverage to growing their business, go send them a couple videos that you've watched on this channel that you've gotten a lot of fruit from, because you never know how that might impact someone else's day. So that's about all I have for you guys. Love you all. Appreciate your all support. Can't wait to see you on stage or in the next video. Peace.